Hello there, YouTube. Welcome to the Anderson Surf and Snow Ranch YouTube channel. I've been asked to do a video on the Snowmakers that I made this year. We've been using these the last couple months, and thanks to our good friend Sam Studi, who posts a lot of content on his page, and he's much more popular than I'll ever be. A lot of people have been directed to my page, and they've been messaging me, DMing me, commenting on how did you do this, how did you do that. So they've asked me to do a video. This video, like my tow rope video, if you watch that one, will be fairly technical. I don't want to get too far into the weeds and just make it super boring, but it seems like those are the questions I'm getting are kind of specific. So my kids and my wife would tell me that I talk too much and these videos are too long and too technical. Make a comment down below if that's what all the kids say. I don't know. I mean, this is the type of stuff I look for on YouTube. I like it to be technical, but maybe you're not looking for that. I mean, if you're looking for pictures or videos of the things just spraying snow, you can find that on Instagram. I'm assuming you got to this page via Anderson Surf and Snow Ranch Instagram account, or through potentially Sam Studi, and then via Anderson Surf and Snow Ranch and got here, or maybe you stumbled across it by searching Snowmakers on YouTube or something like that too. But if you did stumble across it on YouTube, if you go to my Instagram page, Anderson Surf and Snow Ranch, there's a lot more content there and videos of some of the stuff we build and do dumb stuff. So you can see here, I'll talk a little bit about the snowmaking stuff. I'm holding a tripod here, so if I kind of bump it around or set it down, that's why. The snowmaking stuff, when I get into that here real quick, I've been making snow now got into this a couple months ago. I'm in Minnesota, it's end of January 2025. We had a terrible winter last year for snow, and it was unreasonably or unseasonably warm. It's been kind of the same thing this year. It's probably been a little bit colder, but not much. We've had some cold snaps where we could make snow, but right now it's 40 degrees in end of January, and it's going to be in the mid 40s all week, so we're going to probably lose everything we did make. And then next week it gets cold again, so we could potentially start making snow. I was going to do it last year, but I've lived in Minnesota my whole life, and it snows pretty much every winter to some degree. But the last couple winters have been pretty bad. So this winter I decided to get into snowmaking. You've probably seen Luna there, the black lab, in many of our Instagram videos. I'm sure she'll be making a few more appearances during this video. But yeah, anyway, I'll get into it. I'll just kind of ramble along here. Not necessarily any rhyme or reason. I'll talk about the little bit of the technical snowmaking stuff, and then maybe the carts I made and some of the specifics on the air compressors and pressure washers and stuff like that. As I was getting into, if I say something that I don't know what I'm talking about or I'm wrong, I apologize. Like I said, I've been making snow now for about 3 weeks. Got into this a couple months ago, and I am still learning. Definitely a science to it, a little bit of an art, but I got a long way to go. So I apologize ahead of time if I say something incorrect. There's some really good stuff on the internet. Facebook page called Backyard Snowmaking or Snowmakers, about 20,000 members. A lot of good info on there if you want to get into this. And some other websites and stuff like that. So the snowmakers that I'm using, I got these from Cole at Winter Wonderland Snowmakers. You can find him on Instagram. I believe his website is Winter Wonderland Snowmakers. Super nice guy. Makes these units here. I believe this is the TG2. He also makes the TG4. The TG2 has the 2 spray nozzles there in the nucleator, and the TG4 has 4 spray nozzles in the nucleator. To kind of get into what this stuff is or whatever, your water comes out, full force here through the pressure washer out of the upper 2 nozzles, and the lower one here is the nucleation, if I'm pronouncing that right, nucleator nozzle. This here, you run through a pressure washer And I'm using a Ryobi, I don't know what model it is, but this one's 18 PSI, 1.2 gallons per minute. When it's sized, I don't know the nozzle size, you tell Cole what you're doing. If you're gonna use whatever pressure washer you're using, he sizes the nozzles correctly and everything works. The time it comes out here, you want that pressure to be about 500 to 700 PSI, I believe. So again, he knew what pressure washer I was using, and he sized those nozzles correctly. The nucleator nozzle, which is pretty much on all Snowmakers to some degree, is coming from the compressor, an airline, and you are opening this valve just a little bit to add just a little bit of water to it. And when I say little, I mean very, very little. When it comes out of there, I don't know the science behind it, but as it throws it out there, that upper water, as it shoots out into the air, atomizes with that nucleated moisture and air directly below it, and that's what creates the snow. If the nucleator nozzle doesn't have the correct amount of air or water, you just end up spraying water and just ends up being ice all over the ground. So that does have to be kind of adjusted correctly, but it's easy to do once you kind of get into it, and you kind of figure it out pretty quick. So anyway, that's the Snowmaker unit I have there. Again, I referenced the Ryobi pressure washer. I don't know if this does have a model on it. I don't know. At Home Depot, I think they're like $100. That's the one I used. Pretty cheap, pretty common. A lot of other people use it. I think Cole told me that a lot of people use that one, so I just kind of went with that one. The compressors, I have two different ones, and I bought two different ones specifically on purpose. Both of these are kind of the low decibel units. You can get, they say 80% quieter than other air compressors. That's true. This is the Cobalt. I don't know what model it is, but you can get that at Lowe's for $289 plus tax. The other compressor I bought at Harbor Freight. They advertise it at $289 plus tax. I bought it on a sale at 15% off, so it was $246 plus tax, so a little bit cheaper, you know, $40 off or something like that. Both I've ran, oh gosh, we made snow over the last 3-4 weeks off and on. They've ran quite a bit. Both have run consistently well. I got two different ones, kind of thinking, well, maybe one would fail sooner than the other, but so far both have ran exactly the same and have done extremely well. They run 24 hours straight. The pressure you need coming out of that into that nucleator nozzle is about 90 psi and a consistent kind of 4.3 CFM or 5 CFM, and that's what both of these do. So when you fire this up, the pressure washer never stops and the compressors will never stop. I've ran them for 8 hours straight, and I've had them running for 24 hours straight. And in fact, at the end of this video, well, I'll get back to that. At the end of this video, I'm gonna tag on another video or of what happens when stuff freezes up. We'll talk a little bit about that. But you know, if I was to make one of these, I'd probably buy the Harbor Freight one right now. The carts I made for them, like I said, I'll get into that in a second here, but it was a little easier to make the carts and stuff to hold all this junk with Harbor Freight versus the Cobalt or the Lowe's unit, but you know, either one's fine, I think. So yeah, I mean, and this is probably the most efficient or cheapest way to make one of these. You know, these compressors, let's just say, are $250 to $300 depending on which one you get. The pressure washer is $100. Cole sells these units for $275 each. So you know, you're into that there, and then you probably need about, depending on, at least 100 feet, and I have 300 feet because I got two different ones, but I use a 0G hose. This stuff is excuse me, kind of like fire hose. it's cloth or canvas, so when it's cold and freezing out and you got to roll this stuff up, it's not vinyl, it's not cracking. You can bend it in cold weather and kind of roll it up. Cole over there at Winter Wonderland Snowmakers does sell a stand with his units, and they came with it. Or I purchased those with the units. What I found, and they work fine, but I do have, if you go to our Instagram page, you can see kind of how big a hill we have. I have to move these things around or turn them, I don't want to say often, but enough times where moving these things like the compressor, the pressure washer, and then that thing on the snowmaker on the stand was kind of a pain in the butt. It's kind of a two-person job, and you're dragging this stuff all over the hill as it's spraying and stuff like that. With the carts I made, I just haul them out there with my six-wheeler. I've got a ring on the end of each one, throw it over the ball, pull it out to the hill, hook up the hoses, electrical, and away we go. In the event I need to adjust it, I'm just going to back up here so you can see. It's out there spraying. You can, raise or lower it. You can turn it whatever direction you want. So a little bit easier, a little less apt to maybe tip over. Just trying to make my life easy, because again, if you're spraying in one direction for 8 hours, these things might pile up snow for 8 inches deep, and then you gotta turn them. So I just kind of turn that or raise it or whatever I need to do. I've got a light on there, so when they're running at night, these, from an electrical point, a lot of people ask me like, oh, it must be expensive or something like that. Well, yes and no. I don't think it's really that expensive. I live on a little lake, but I pull the water out of the house through an egress window and a laundry sink down in the basement. You could hook it up to a water spigot outside, but in Minnesota they tend to freeze up, and that's what happened to ours. So I ran the hose out an egress window, made a panel for it. It is kind of nice to run out of the basement with the laundry sink, because it's got the garden hose hookup. And then when you get these things running, you can start with hot water. So if it's cold and maybe stuff's kind of freezing up, you can kind of get everything running, and then just go down there and switch over to cold water and let it run. That would be, the advantage to running it from a laundry sink or a spigot or something like that, or out of the house. It's fairly easy to hook up. You can do it quickly, get it rolling. You are going to be limited. A house garden hose could maybe produce 10, 12 gallons per minute at best. These produce 1.2, but if both of these are running at the same time, which generally they are, your pressure inside the house is, probably almost cut in half. So if you got kids or someone taking a shower or whatever, usually someone's complaining because the water pressure has been, decreased a little bit, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. But again, just makes it easier to hook up, get running, and when you're done shutting it down is, I have a quick coupler coming out of the egress window, and you just, unhook everything real quick and roll it up, and I put it back in the heated garage, and it comes out when you need it again. Making snow is generally, I would say, 10, 15 degrees to 25 degrees is the sweet spot. There's an app called, I think it's called Snowmaker. It looks like a little snowflake. It'll tell you, what the peak times are and best times are to make snow, and shows you the wet bulb and humidity and all that stuff. It's pretty cool. So if you want, download that app. It's called Snowmaker or Snowmaking. And again, just looks like a snowflake on the App Store. There's an air line coming off that compressor, and you can see right here I've got insulation over the air line, and inside that air line there is heat tape, that plugs in. What can happen is, because the pressure on the pressure washer is 500 to 700 and the pressure on your air line is 90, let's just say, all the time, when you've got this open a little bit and you're feeding a little bit of water into that nucleation nozzle, over time, maybe 8, 10, 12 hours, water will slowly, ever so slowly, migrate back down the airline, because the pressure is greater on the water, back into your compressor. Not a big deal, but if it's cold, that water will eventually freeze and stop the nucleation nozzle, and it'll continue to spray water. And again, you don't get snow, you just get ice everywhere versus snow. If you've got that heat tape, which I plugged in, if you're in that 10, 15 degree to 25 degree window, this thing seems to run for, you could run it for days, I think. Yeah, you'll get a little bit of water in the tank, but both of these compressors have a little ball valve on the bottom, and you can drain it out. And it's not much. It's very insignificant, but I'm just telling you that's why the insulation is on both of those and the heat tape that plugs in. Electrical requirement, the water is not a big deal. These things here would probably use about 1,700 gallons per 24 hours. So, really that's not that much. I live in the country, so it's coming out of a well, a little bit of electricity that's turned the pump on and off, but pretty minimal cost there, almost insignificant. Electrical, I'm sure there's something there. Each compressor draws 13 amps. So and the pressure washers, I don't know what the draw is on them, but they have to be dedicated. So if you go to Instagram and look at the hill I've got, you see the shed that we go by on the left. In there, I had to wire in 4 20 amp, dedicated 120 volt outlets for each compressor for each pressure washer. The pressure washer is plugged into the heat tape and that little light right there because it draws a little bit less, but you could not run, both compressors or the compressor and the pressure washer off 120 amp circuit. It just couldn't handle it. So you are pulling some electricity when you're running these things. So definitely going to be, a little bit of a cost there to run them. But still, in the big picture, again, this is the cheapest way to make snow. These things will pile up. Like I said, if they're running, they'll pile up snow. I would say, if you run them over like an 8-hour period, maybe an inch per hour is probably a realistic number at maybe, let's just say 20 degrees. 8 inches might be a 30 foot long span, I don't know, 10 feet wide. So, it doesn't look like much, but they will move some snow. I am looking at some other options. I know some people, talking to people. I'm looking at bigger homeowner units, possibly a commercial unit, a used one. I don't know yet. I'm still kind of playing around and trying to figure that out and what's beneficial there. If I go with a bigger unit, I will not be able to pull the water from the house anymore, but we do live on a lake, and the advantage, disadvantage, or advantage would be, you can pull more gallons per minute, but now when you set up to do it, I've got to drill a hole through the ice, run the lines out, put the submersible in there. I have to filter the water prior to it hitting the Snowmaker unit. And if, in the event I have to shut down for whatever reason, you gotta pull all that stuff out, and it, just creates a little bit more work. But the advantage would be is, if you could get something that was 20 gallons per minute, obviously you're laying down, 10 to 20 times the snow you are in the same amount of time. So, like I said, there's pros and cons to everything. These work, but I'm always just kind of looking at other stuff, playing around, it's fun, and I kind of enjoy this type of stuff. The carts I made there's nothing special about that. Bought a little steel, had some laying around. Lawnmower tires, you can buy those off Facebook Marketplace, usually for about $10 a piece. And again, this is just in an effort to throw it on the wheeler, roll it out there fast, and get it back in the garage fast. You do have to, occasionally shut these down. At the end of this video, I'll post a quick 30-second video I took a couple weeks ago of what can happen is you might be running, creating snow during the day, and then it might get a little cold overnight. You know, let's just say it gets down to 5 below, and you're gonna think, well, I'm gonna keep trying it, which is what I did. And then the wind switched, so now it's blowing right back into the nucleation nozzle. The video I'll add on to the end of this video, you'll see the nucleator nozzle froze up, but it continued to spray water. And you'll see at the end of this video, assuming you can make it that far, what happens when it's extremely cold and the nucleator nozzle freezes. But yeah, like I said, I don't want to get, you know, I'm probably a little too technical, but you know, if you're watching this video, that's probably why you're here and what you want to know. Again, make a comment down below. Is this what you want to see? You want more of this type of content, you know, kind of technical like this and what I'm making? Or again, if you want the short form stuff, I'd assume you'd just go over to Instagram and watch the little, you know, 30 to 60 second videos, and that's all you're looking for. So yeah, I mean, I would like to see these hoses that come with these pressure washers, from the pressure washer up to the, what would have been the wand, but now it's a 22 millimeter adapter, same as the wand. It'd be nice if they made like a 4 or 6 foot hose. These are like 20 footers and kind of that already, kind of got a memory, and those things are always kind of in the way and pain in the butt. I made these covers for them too. It's just some steel welded up off the cart, and you'll see in that video I tag on the end of this thing that, you know, if the wind switches and you start getting piling up snow, I was just trying to protect the compressor. I also, on this one, I haven't done it yet on here, and I will, I wrapped some insulation kind of where that heat tape comes back in here, and it kind of, I wrapped it around that manifold in there a little bit. You know, this is the orange cord is a 12-foot heat tape that goes to that insulation up to the, and kind of I wrapped it around that nucleator nozzle. You can kind of see the end of it right there. And yeah, just put the pipe insulation around there. So the heat tape, there's a couple extra feet of heat tape that's wrapped around the manifold, and you know, with the tote that's on top, that's just kind of a cover, keep the ice and snow off it, maybe retain a little bit of heat as it's running and keep it from freezing, just keep that airline, you know, cruising along. So yeah, like I said, I got the pressure washer, heat tape, and light all plugged into one circuit, and the compressor runs on its own because it draws so much energy. But the light and I think the heat tape, they draw 7 watts per foot, and I got a 12 footer, so you're looking at, you know, what 7 times 12, whatever that is, you know, let's just say 90 watts, 100 at the most. On the heat tape, that's a little cheap light, probably draws like 10 watts, not hardly nothing, little 1200 lumen LED. And then the compressor, I could look at the bottom or something, or the data plate, but I'm assuming that thing probably draws around 10 or 1,000 watts or something like that. So, you know, 10 amps. So, all right. Again, comment below if this is good, bad, what you want to see. I was telling this here too, I forgot to say, I was asking Cole there at Winter Wonderland Snowmakers. He's got a stand, but I said, boys, if you could make a 1/4-inch pipe thread to broom handle thread, which is 3/8 by 5 Acme thread, you know, a lot of people, I think, could do a lot with a broom handle. You know, you can kind of, once you can screw it to that. I bought this little plastic thing here off Amazon. You know, you can loosen this and then tilt it. So not only can you turn it, but you can loosen that and then tilt it if you need to, which I've done a couple times. That was like $8, and I drilled the top out and then epoxied in a 3-inch, 1/4-inch pipe nipple, and it's 1/4-inch pipe thread on that TG2 Snowmaker, so that threaded right into it. Just, and that's the same on the stand. It's just 1/4-inch pipe thread. There's a nipple that threads into the bottom. So that broom handle, like I said, just adapt the Snowmaker to a broom handle that can, you know, raise up 6-7 feet if you want, or right, you know, 3 feet off the ground, turn it any direction, tilt it any direction, and you don't have to worry about these things kind of tipping over or anything like that. You know, again, if you're on Anderson Surf and Snow Ranch, we do have a pretty big hill, probably bigger than most. And I think most people that use these types of things, if you're on that Facebook group, is probably a little smaller setup than what we got. You know, maybe they need one of these. They're running it out of the garage. They live in, you know, Texas or North Carolina, or, you know, some in Minnesota, who knows. But, you know, they might be spraying a hill because it got cold one weekend and they want a little snow for the kids to go down or something like that. So, like I said, a lot of area we cover with these things. So, but they work. They do the job. It's going to be warm all week, so by the end of the week, the only thing left right now is the snow we made a few weeks ago, and I have a suspicion by the end of the week there's not going to be much of that left. It's supposed to be kind of mid-40s for the next 5 days, and then it gets cold again. So hopefully we can fire everything back up and spend days. But again, if the wind picks up or it gets too cold, it just, you know, sometimes you just can't make it all the time. You might get a window where you can make it for 8-10 hours, and then it gets too cold, or the wind picks up, and if the wind's blowing hard, you might as well just quit, because it just blows it away. It never lands where you want it to. So, you know, it's got to be fairly still, you know, 5-10 mile an hour wind. And again, this temperature-wise, 10 to 25 degrees is kind of ideal. 15 to 25 degrees is perfect. You start getting colder than that, some of it'll evaporate because the humidity's so low, and then usually it's just so cold you start freezing stuff up, and it's just gets to be more of a pain in the butt than it's worth. So anyway, hopefully that was helpful. I'm hoping I answered as many questions. I'm sure I left some stuff out. Comment below, good, bad. What do you want to see? More technical, less technical? I can make another video if this one sucks, and we'll go from there. So, all right. Thanks again, and again, follow me on Instagram, Anderson Surf and Snow Ranch.